You and I were always talking about the mistakes the BBC makes. It seems now it is barely able to put a foot right. And the grovelling apology that Tim Davie had to make yesterday surely means that we no longer can be charged 160 quid a year for this shambolic organisation.
Absolutely. I think we know this has shown us clearly that the BBC is anti-British, it's anti the Union, it's anti the royal family. It doesn't show any due respect to the institutions that British people hold dear. And in order to carry on their sort of woke campaigning and the different things that they get onto and cover-ups that they do, they're bullying British people on their doorsteps to force them into funding something that they don't want to fund.
But the Bashir case, I mean, this, as I say, this was held up as the jewel in the crown of BBC journalism. And in fairness, for a long time, it did look like an astonishing exclusive, getting Princess Diana to sit down and say there were 3 people in this marriage, to lay open the horror show of her marriage to Prince Charles. It was an extraordinary moment. And then we subsequently found out that Martin Bashir obtained that interview by weaving a web of deceit and lies that conned Princess Di into believing that her husband was having an affair with Tiggy Burke. Absolutely untrue. That members of her staff were selling stories to the tabloid press. Absolutely untrue. Fake bank statements. Now, the point is the BBC found out about this very swiftly after this interview. And what did they do? They buried it. It's a disgrace, isn't it?
It's an absolute disgrace, but this is what the BBC are really great at. They're really, really good at just sort of keeping going with business as usual, covering their own backs and ensuring that they just get to carry on doing what they want. And it just shows a real level of arrogance, doesn't it, from a corporation that is funded by British taxpayers, essentially. And it leaves a horrible taste in people's mouths. I mean, you and I will remember when that interview was broadcast at the time, and it seemed extraordinary then that, Princess Diana would be saying those things. But, if we had known all of the pressures that have been brought to bear on her and all of the deception that had been put in place by the BBC that the British people were funding, that's a complete injustice, and there's no way you can sort of grovel your way out of it, as Tim Davie's trying to do.
Yes, he's saying that apart from the unqualified apology to Tiggy Burke and indeed to Prince Charles, to Prince William, to Prince Harry, you name it, he had to apologise to them. A substantial sum in damages paid to Tiggy. We understand it's £200,000 of the agony that woman was put through, the agony that Princess Diana was put through due to these awful lies. And when the BBC found out about them, it buried them. I mean, that's just not acceptable. Also, by the way, there is an unfolding sex scandal going on at the BBC right now involving another former Radio 1 DJ, and that could end up causing that Tim Westbrook, of course, who is accused at Westwood, who is accused of serial sex abuse of young women, some of them are underage. He denies it, of course, but the BBC once again looks as if it tried to bury that. Tim Davie forced recently to admit that the BBC did know about this, but there'd been some sort of administrative error, so they forgot.
I mean, this is the thing that we're shown time and time again, is that the BBC believes it's completely unaccountable to those that are forced to fund it. And that's where the real injustice lies, particularly with the cost of living crisis and what have you. People are really, really cash-strapped at the moment, and being forced to fund something, an organisation that is so deeply, mired and has no transparency whatsoever, is really, really unfair. And at some point, the BBC has to be answerable. And if they can't do that themselves, which they've clearly shown that they can't, then they need to be answerable to paying customers who are voluntary paying customers, and not those who are bullied on their doorstep.
And don't forget that after the BBC discovered what Bashir had done to secure this bombshell interview with Princess Diana 25 years ago, after they found out and buried it, he went off covered in glory because he was poached by high-paying American networks. So he worked in America for a while and then came back, and guess what? The BBC hired him again, of all things, as religious editor. So they knew about his past and they rehired him. What's going on?
Well, exactly. This is the thing with, as you say, with Tim Westwood as well, and, with Savile for all those years, and all, Rolf Harris, all of these people the BBC was aware of, but they kept them on, they protected them, and they promoted them. And this is, absolutely abhorrent to British people, that they have to put up with funding an organisation that has such a sort of corruption at its core. So I think it's time for this government, or for the new Prime Minister, who when they come in, to really look at the licence fee and say, look, enough is enough. 2/3 of the country want to get rid of the licence fee. Let's make the BBC be completely accountable to those that pay for it, who voluntarily pay for it, and let's call an end to all of this, because it's just disgraceful.
It's getting ridiculous. And don't forget these enormous amounts of money that are being paid out. Tiggy Legborg is by far from the first person the BBC has had to pay compensation to in lieu of Bashir's activities. This is our money. This is a licence fee. Money is being paid on these unnecessary legal wrangles that the BBC gets itself into due to its incompetence. And you can tell from Tim Davies' statement yesterday that the lawyers for Tiggy Legborg, and no doubt Prince William, Prince Charles, Prince Harry, made him say the most extraordinary things. He said it was a matter of great regret that the BBC did not get to the facts in the immediate aftermath of the programme. There were warning signs that the interview might have been obtained improperly. Instead, as the Duke of Cambridge himself put it, the BBC failed to ask the tough questions. Had we done our job properly, Princess Diana would have known the truth during her lifetime. We let her, the royal family, and our audiences down. It doesn't get any worse than that, does it?
It absolutely doesn't. And I think that, how do you really come back from that, when the truth is it's taken decades for them to get to this point where they'll actually put their hands up and, under extreme sort of financial pressure and legal pressure. So I think the British people know that the BBC isn't going to change its ways. It's not going to have this transparency and this, level of broadcasting that people expect from a public service broadcaster. And it's time for them to sort of cut their losses and go over onto a commercial basis.
One last quote from Davies' grovelling apology. Now we know about the shocking way that the interview was obtained, I have decided that the BBC will never show the programme again, nor will we licence it in whole or part to other broadcasters. Trying to bury it, aren't they?
Yeah, but they've made a fair bit of money out of it already from licensing it out, haven't they? So, I suppose that's probably part of the legal deal that they have in place, that they aren't allowed to do that anymore. So it's sort of a little bit it's trying to make himself look good, as if that's a decision that he's made, but I think he's probably been forced into that.
I mean, as I say, they've got the Tim Westwood drama still unfolding. I mean, the BBC is, as I said earlier in the show, it's not fit for purpose, is it?
Absolutely not. And we're seeing, more and more people, 5,000 households every week are cancelling their licence fee at the moment because they realise that they just don't actually need to pay for it. More and more people are watching on demand. They're not watching live broadcast TV anyway. And once they know that they don't need a TV licence, as long as they're only watching on demand on their TV, then they're perfectly, they're released from paying this £160 a year for an organisation that's just preaching to them.